While I wish I were delivering this talk to you from a stage in Tuscany for TEDxGrosseto, like many people around the world, I've been grounded. I've been stuck in California, where the difficulties of the pandemic have been compounded by wildfires and social unrest. In fact, just a few weeks ago, a wildfire raged close to here that sent people looking to this dry wash that I'm standing in as safe harbor. It was one of the only places that wouldn't burn. And I'm not unique in having to deal with disaster. People all over the world are dealing with their own disasters. Social, political, environmental disasters are unfolding all around us. What's unique about my situation is that I expected all of this. Because for the past 3 years, I've been doing ethnographic research with doomsday preppers. These are individuals and communities who are preparing for a range of future calamities. And many of the preppers that I've been spending time with have told me that the future of humanity is not in the stars, it's not even in the oceans, it's in the underground. The reason for this is simple. Human beings are unique in our ability to speculate on the future and plan for disaster. Anticipating the unexpected is a hallmark of what makes us human. For thousands of years, people have been digging into the underground in order to bolster their defenses against the unknown. Take Cappadocia, for instance. It's in central Anatolia, in what is now Turkey. The Hittites began carving out the soft volcanic tuff there as their empire was fragmenting around 1200 BCE. They hollowed out spaces for 22 cities. Some of these cities are 60 meters below the Earth's surface. And here they carved out space for living, for storage, and industry inside subterranean systems that were only accessible through small entrances sealed in with these 3-foot tall millstones that could be rolled over the entrances. This design allowed for the stones to be rolled open and closed only from inside the bunker. So very much a defensible space that was built with intention. There are 22 known large-scale ancient subterranean cities in this region, and many of these places still exist. We can visit them today, or we could before the pandemic. Hopefully we'll be able to soon again. Derinkiu, the deepest of these 22 cities, is one of these that stretches to 60 meters below the surface, and it sheltered as many as 20,000 people, along with their livestock and food storage. And they had 18 floors of bedrooms, halls, churches, armories, storage chambers, wells, and toilets. But it wasn't until the Victorians that we began seriously excavating the underground. It's been less than 250 years since human beings began seriously coring into the Earth's surface. And to date, the deepest hole that was ever dug into the Earth was the 22 centimeter wide Kola borehole in the Russian Arctic, which only made it 0.2% of the way to the Earth's mantle. In other words, there's a lot of room to expand underground. As humans continue to burrow deeper into the Earth, now reaching hundreds of meters of deep, over many layers, it's become clear that the extensive, large-scale disruption of underground rock fabric has no analog in Earth's 4.6 billion year history. And it's only set to continue in the future. So my argument here tonight is simple. Our future is underground, and the reasons for this are threefold. First, the densification necessary for the size of the Earth's population means utilizing not just skyscrapers that stack people into smaller and smaller spaces, but also subterranean environments. Second, the implementation of increasingly granular atmospheric surveillance systems means that the underground is literally the last place to hide secrets. And finally, a collapsing climate is going to drive us into subterranean space, where we can most easily control the parameters of our own survival. So let's work through each of these in kind. First, the densification of sustainable cities. The United Nations estimates that by 2050, 68% of the world's population will live in urban areas. This would not be possible without significant vertical densification of critical infrastructure. Singapore is a great example of this. Singapore has got a master plan for the city, which includes a subterranean master plan. So it's a volumetric imagination of how the city is going to expand. Singapore is now burying infrastructure, retail shops, pedestrian walkways, highways, storage, homes, and offices. The underground city is one that will be planned, rational, calculable, and subject to constant surveillance, of course. It's a new kind of underground space, because anything that's built, you can control the environment underground, but you can also control how that environment is surveilled, how the people can interact within that environment. Just as a skyscraper might be considered the architectural form that defined the 20th century, its foil, the geoscraper, a resilient structure built for density and control, might come to define the coming age of turmoil. Second, defense and security. Many of you will recall that during the recent Black Lives Matter protests, US President Donald Trump hid in a bunker. In addition to the bunkers that come with the job of president, he's bragged about having bunkers under his estate in Westchester, New York, and under his international golf club in suburban West Palm Beach. According to Department of Defense estimates, there are approximately 10,000 underground military installations in the world just over a decade ago. Many of these are not visible from the Earth's surface. At the same time, civilian advancements in technology coupled with an increasingly intrusive government systems of surveillance means that we're losing our personal privacy at a rapid clip. We've entered a new stage of capitalism, technoliberalism perhaps, a form of governance in which politicians across the spectrum are willing to erode civil liberties, the environment, and the social safety net in exchange for campaign financing and cozy relationships with the wealthy technology companies that are turning all of our movements, purchases, and relationships into usable and sellable data. The widespread acceptance of surveillance culture is the catalyst for a new dark age, a paranoid feedback loop in which the failure to comprehend the world leads to more demand for more information, which only further clouds our understanding of what is actually going on. More information here does not provide more clarity, but rather more confusion, as can be seen from the recent adoption of conspiracy theories like the QAnon theory. All of this has created a permanent pathology in the populace, where we can never know any longer that we're not being surveilled. We're always living our lives as if we're being watched, and that changes our behaviors to a great extent. So the third point I want to make here is about climate change. In 2012, a UN Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the IPCC, suggested that in the next 20 years, the temperature increase will almost certainly cause widespread global flooding, wildfires, infrastructural collapse, crop failures, species extinction, and mass migration. At the end of 2019 and the beginning of 2020, many of you will remember, bushfires raged around Australia, coating Sydney and then Melbourne, followed by the capital, Canberra, and almost the entire country with a thick, toxic ochre haze that required people to mask up. Air pollution levels rose to 22 times the accepted level over millions of acres as an area the size of South Korea burned hot and fast at the beginning of the fires. Many people started building fire bunkers in their backyard after these fires. These are bunkers that people can hide in underground as the fires rage over them, places of safe harbor. Again, just like this wash. Just as Black Saturday in Australia was a wake-up call for many to start prepping, the 2019-2020 bushfires were the first time many Australians understood the drought ravaging the inland in visceral terms. And it didn't take long for the rest of the world to understand what those bushfires portended. Soon, I started seeing bunkers everywhere. In Europe, in Canada, the Korea Peninsula, Thailand, in Australia. Today, like many of the technologies we use, the bunker has achieved escape velocity from its origins. It is no longer something that only governments build. It's no longer an architecture that's connected just to the Cold War. People are building bunkers for environmental collapse. They're building bunkers to escape the surveillance state. People are building bunkers as spaces of secrecy, and people are building bunkers as spaces of defense against the improbable and the impossible.